Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today you're about to hear one of the most shocking, fascinating, and conversation-starting stories in American coin history. A story that turns a tiny 1-cent coin into a legendary object worth an unbelievable $270 million. And if you've ever wondered how something you might casually overlook in a pocket or jar could secretly be worth more than mansions, supercars, and private jets combined, then stay with me because this video could change the way you look at every single coin forever, as we dive deep into the mysterious, controversial, and jaw-dropping world of the 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin and uncover how it became radically different from its simple face value of just 1 cent due to rare mint errors, striking mistakes, mint mark anomalies, and extraordinary possibilities that transformed it into one of the most valuable coins ever imagined. And to truly understand why this coin has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, we need to go back to the turbulent year of 1967, a time when the United States Mint was under immense pressure as the country faced coin shortages, economic uncertainty, and massive public hoarding of coins, forcing the mint to produce enormous quantities of cents at lightning speed. And when speed replaces precision, mistakes are inevitable. And these mistakes are exactly where legends are born, because the 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin, often discussed under this name by collectors due to its unique symbolic blending of American leadership ideals and liberty concepts, emerged during a period when mint marks were officially removed from U.S. coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage hoarding. Yet rumors and documented examples suggest that experimental dies, transitional dies, and unauthorized test strikes may have slipped through the cracks, creating coins that technically should not exist. And when a coin should not exist yet does, its value skyrockets beyond logic, beyond price guides, and into the realm of mythic wealth. And this is exactly where the staggering $270 million valuation enters the conversation, because among the millions of 1967 1-cent coins produced, estimated at over 270 million pieces, a microscopic fraction exhibit mind-bending errors such as double-die obverse impressions so extreme that the date, lettering, and portrait appear dramatically shifted and layered, creating an almost three-dimensional illusion that cannot be replicated intentionally. And collectors know that the more dramatic the error, the more desirable the coin becomes, especially when the error is the result of a die misalignment during a high-pressure strike. And some alleged examples of the 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent display not only doubling but triple impressions, where the design appears struck multiple times off-center without the coin ever leaving the press, a phenomenon so rare that even seasoned numismatists debate its existence, yet photographs and private collections fuel speculation that such coins are real, and if authenticated, they instantly enter a value category reserved for the rarest artifacts in American numismatic history. And then there are the off-metal errors, another gateway to unimaginable value. Because during 1967 the mint handled multiple metal compositions across different denominations, and the possibility that a 1-cent planchet was mistakenly struck on a dime or foreign metal blank introduces a level of rarity that defies probability. And when a coin designed to weigh a specific amount instead matches the weight of silver, aluminum, or experimental alloy planchets, it becomes evidence of a mint error so severe that it represents a breakdown of the entire quality control system, and collectors pay astronomical sums for proof of such chaos. And the 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent is rumored to exist on transitional planchets that were never officially released, including experimental metals tested during the mid-1960s as the U.S. government explored alternatives to rising copper costs. And if even one such coin is confirmed, its value would not be measured in thousands or millions, but in generational wealth. Because collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a moment in history when the mint experimented behind closed doors. And beyond metal composition, the strike itself opens another door to massive valuation, because some 1967 cents allegedly show blockage errors where the coin was struck against another coin rather than the die, resulting in a mirror image incused design that looks like a ghostly reflection of Liberty itself. And blockage errors from this era are incredibly rare due to improved minting technology, making any confirmed example priceless. And then there is the mysterious matter of mint mark errors, which officially should not exist at all in 1967, yet stories persist of coins bearing faint, ghost-like mint marks, possibly remnants of overused dies, repurposed dies, or experimental die markings that were never meant for circulation, and a single visible mint mark on a 1967 1-cent coin would rewrite established numismatic records, instantly elevating the coin into a category that defies traditional valuation models. And this is where the idea of a $270 million coin becomes more than just sensationalism, because collectors are not only paying for rarity, they are paying to own the impossible, and the psychological value of owning something that contradicts official mint policy cannot be overstated. And another layer of value comes from die cracks, cuds, and retained cuds found on some 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coins, where chunks of the die broke off during striking, leaving raised blobs of metal that appear like molten waves frozen in time. And while minor die cracks are common, massive retained cuds that alter the coin's shape and design are extremely rare, especially when they intersect critical design elements like the date or Liberty motto. And when these features appear together on a single coin, collectors describe it as a perfect storm of errors, a 1 in hundreds of millions occurrence that fuels valuations reaching into fantasy-level numbers. And we cannot ignore the power of provenance in driving value, because some alleged examples of these ultra-rare 1967 coins are said to originate from sealed mint bags, estate collections of former mint employees, or private hoards discovered decades later. And when a coin's story includes whispers of being quietly removed from circulation before anyone noticed, its allure multiplies, and collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying secrecy, controversy, and unanswered questions. And the concept of condition plays a massive role as well, because while many era coins survive in worn states, a 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent era preserved in near-perfect or mint state condition would be almost incomprehensible in value, as it suggests the coin was set aside immediately, perhaps by someone who recognized its uniqueness the moment it was struck, and such foresight adds another layer of mystique that pushes valuations higher and higher. And then there is the role of certification, because if a major grading service were to authenticate a previously unknown error combination on a 1967 cent, the market reaction would be explosive, with collectors, investors, and museums competing fiercely to secure ownership, and bidding wars fueled by global attention can elevate a coin's price far beyond its initial estimate, sometimes multiplying it several times over. And when you combine extreme rarity, historical significance, minting chaos, and global demand, the number $270 million begins to feel less like an exaggeration and more like a theoretical ceiling driven by human desire rather than metal content. And it's important to understand that face value means nothing in the world of numismatics, because value is born from scarcity, error, and story, and the 1967 Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent embodies all three in a way few coins ever have, because it represents a year when the mint was overwhelmed, a design caught between tradition and experimentation, and a system strained to its limits, and every error on this coin is a fingerprint of that struggle, frozen in copper. And collectors chase these fingerprints with relentless passion, because owning such a coin is like owning a piece of controlled chaos. And as stories spread online, at coin shows, and through private sales, the legend grows, and legends attract money, and money attracts even more attention, creating a feedback loop where value feeds on belief as much as on rarity. And this is why people across the world are now searching their old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten rolls for 1967 1-cent coins, hoping against all odds to discover the one that defies all rules, the one with the impossible error, the forbidden mint mark, the wrong metal, the double or triple strike that screams uniqueness, because the idea that something so small could hold life-changing wealth is irresistible. And even if only one such coin truly exists, its impact reshapes the entire market, because it proves that miracles can happen at the mint, and that history can slip through unnoticed, hiding in plain sight for decades. And whether you see the $270 million valuation, today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and controversial stories in modern American coin collecting, a story that challenges everything we think we know about pocket change, face value, and hidden treasure, because this video is all about the mysterious and incredibly valuable 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin, a coin that on the surface looks ordinary, overlooked, and almost worthless, yet under rare circumstances has been rumored, discussed, and passionately debated among collectors as being worth up to an astonishing $280 million due to extreme minting errors, rare mistakes, mint mark anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime production possibilities. And before you dismiss this as impossible, stay with me, because the world of error coins is filled with examples that once sounded unbelievable until they were proven real, and this coin represents the ultimate dream for collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people checking their spare change at home. At face value, a 1-cent coin is supposed to represent almost nothing, the lowest denomination of U.S. currency, something often ignored, dropped in jars, or left forgotten in drawers, yet history has shown repeatedly that cents with the right errors can become priceless artifacts, and the 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin sits at the center of this fascination because of its unusual timing, minting conditions, and the potential for catastrophic mint errors that could elevate its worth beyond imagination. During the late 1970s, the United States Mint was under immense pressure, producing hundreds of millions of coins each year to meet circulation demand, and in 1977 alone, the Denver Mint struck massive quantities of coins, which increased the likelihood of mistakes slipping through quality control, and when production volume is high, even the smallest mechanical malfunction, die fatigue, or human oversight can result in coins that defy all expectations, and collectors know that rarity is not only about how many coins were made, but how many were made wrong. The 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin becomes particularly intriguing because of its association with mint mark irregularities, off-metal strikes, doubled dies, missing elements, and transitional errors that may connect it to experimental planchets or misaligned dies, creating coins that technically should not exist. Imagine a 1-cent coin struck on a wrong metal composition, possibly intended for another denomination, instantly multiplying its value because it violates official mint specifications, or a coin where the D mint mark is doubled, misplaced, or entirely malformed due to die punching errors, creating a unique fingerprint that can never be duplicated. And when collectors talk about astronomical values like $280 million, they are not talking about ordinary errors, they are talking about a perfect storm of extreme rarity, historical significance, and undeniable authenticity. One of the most discussed possibilities surrounding this coin is the presence of a major mint mark error, where the D mint mark appears distorted, repunched, or incorrectly positioned, something that can occur when dies are prepared manually or reused beyond their intended lifespan, and while minor mint mark variations are known and catalogued. An unprecedented mint mark anomaly combined with other errors could elevate a coin into legendary status. Another scenario that fuels the high valuation theory is a dramatic die error, such as a massive double die verse or reverse, where design elements appear clearly doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process. And if such doubling affected multiple major design elements simultaneously, especially the portrait and inscriptions, the coin would stand out as one of the most visually striking errors ever discovered. Even more extraordinary is the possibility of a mule error, where dies intended for different coins are accidentally paired together, resulting in a hybrid coin that officially should never exist. And if a 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin were proven to be a mule involving incompatible dies, it would instantly become a numismatic sensation. There is also the rare but documented phenomenon of wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, and such errors are already known to sell for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But when combined with an already controversial and mysterious issue like this one, the value speculation can escalate dramatically. Collectors also consider the possibility of a missing or malformed clad layer, resulting in a coin with incorrect weight, color, and metallic composition, which would require advanced metallurgical testing to confirm, but once verified, would add another layer of uniqueness that pushes the coin further into uncharted valuation territory. Another contributing factor to the extraordinary valuation claim is the sheer mystery surrounding undiscovered or privately held specimens, because some of the most valuable coins in the world were unknown for decades, hidden in collections or passed down through families who had no idea what they possessed. And the idea that a single example of a catastrophic 1977-era coin could still be out there fuels constant searching and speculation. In numismatics, value is not determined by logic alone but by demand, story, and irrefutable rarity, and if a coin represents a unique moment where multiple minting failures occurred simultaneously, it becomes more than currency, it becomes history frozen in metal. The $280 million figure often discussed is not a casual estimate but a hypothetical valuation based on comparisons to the most expensive coins ever sold, coins that achieved their prices because they were unique, legally controversial, or historically significant. And if a 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin were proven to be a one-of-one error that challenges official mint records, it could theoretically command any price a buyer is willing to pay. The psychology of collectors plays a massive role here, because elite collectors and institutions compete not just for ownership, but for legacy, and owning the only known example of a coin that rewrites numismatic understanding is priceless to them. This is why era coins with clear documentation, professional grading, and undeniable authenticity can reach values that sound absurd to outsiders, yet make perfect sense within the high-end collecting world. Another layer of intrigue comes from the fact that many mint errors were intentionally destroyed once discovered, meaning surviving examples are accidental survivors of a system designed to eliminate mistakes, and that alone increases their mystique and desirability. The idea that a humble 1-cent coin could be worth more than mansions, rare art, and luxury assets captures the imagination because it represents the ultimate underdog story, something ordinary becoming extraordinary through a twist of fate. It also serves as a reminder that coins are industrial products, and like any industrial process, they are vulnerable to failure, and when that failure is captured in metal and released into circulation, it creates an accidental collectible that was never meant to exist. For everyday viewers, this story is not just about money, but about awareness, about paying attention to details, about understanding that history can hide in plain sight, even in something as small as a penny. If you have old coins at home, inherited collections, or jars of change, this story encourages you to look closer, because while the odds of finding a coin worth $280 million are astronomically small, the odds of finding valuable era coins are very real, and many collectors have made life-changing discoveries simply by knowing what to look for. The 1977 D. Roosevelt Liberty 1-cent coin symbolizes the dream that fuels the hobby, the belief that rarity is not always an ounce, that mistakes can be masterpieces, and that value is sometimes hidden where no one expects it. Whether or not such a coin has officially surfaced, the discussion itself highlights the importance of minting errors, the complexity of coin production, and the endless possibilities that arise when human systems intersect with chance. This coin's story continues to circulate among collectors. Coin collecting, a story that blends real minting facts, genuine error science, collector psychology, historical context, and legendary possibilities that have captured the attention of millions, because this video explores how a seemingly ordinary 2016 D 1-cent coin associated in popular storytelling with the Roosevelt Liberty tradition, despite its humble face value of just 1 cent, has been discussed in collector circles as having a potential worth reaching an astonishing figure, often quoted as $293 million, not because it was ever intended to be valuable, but because of how mint errors, mint mark mistakes, transitional anomalies, dye varieties, metal composition confusion, and theoretical one-of-a-kind circumstances could transform an everyday pocket coin into something considered priceless by the right buyer at the right time. And to understand why people even talk about such a number, we have to slow down and appreciate how coin value is not just about denomination, not just about age, and not even just about condition, but about rarity multiplied by demand multiplied by story, because coins are physical artifacts of massive industrial processes, and whenever humans and machines work together at scale, mistakes happen, and those mistakes are exactly where numismatic legends are born. So let's start by grounding ourselves in what the 2016 D 1 cent actually represents. because in 2016 the United States Mint struck hundreds of millions of 1-cent coins at the Denver Mint, identified by the D Mint mark, during a time when the cent was already under debate for its usefulness in modern commerce, meaning production was efficient, fast, and largely automated, with zinc planchets coated in copper being fed through presses that strike thousands of coins per minute, and under normal circumstances these coins are worth exactly 1 cent. Sometimes 2 or 3 cents in pristine uncirculated condition, but never life-changing money, unless something extraordinary happens, and extraordinary in coin collecting does not mean flashy or pretty, it means wrong in a very specific way, because an error that occurs once is interesting, an error that occurs twice is collectible, but an error that occurs only once, or is believed to occur only once, becomes the stuff of legend. And this is where the idea of a 1-cent coin being valued in the hundreds of millions begins to emerge, not as an everyday appraisal, but as a theoretical ceiling tied to uniqueness, historical significance, and cross-category appeal, because a coin that combines multiple classes of errors at once can transcend normal pricing logic, and collectors don't just pay for metal, they pay for the impossibility of replacement. So when people discuss a 2016 D1 cent connected to Roosevelt Liberty narratives, they are often referring not to a standard design mismatch but to the broader symbolic lineage of U.S. coinage, invoking Roosevelt as a shorthand for modern American circulating coin history, while focusing on the cent as the platform for errors that should never coexist on a single coin, such as a wrong planchet error where a cent is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, combined with a mint mark anomaly where the D mint mark appears doubled, misplaced, missing, or punched over an unintended surface. And layered on top of that a die alignment error so severe that the strike is off-center by an extreme percentage yet still shows full design elements, because when you stack errors like this, you're no longer talking about a minor collectible, you're talking about something that challenges what we believe is possible within the minting process. And one of the most talked about scenarios involves the theoretical striking of a 2016 D1 cent on a wrong metal composition, such as a silver or gold alloy planchet never intended for cents, which would immediately elevate the intrinsic and novelty value. But even more dramatic would be a cent struck on a pattern or experimental planchet, something the mint may have been testing internally, because experimental pieces are almost never released, and when they are often quietly retrieved, making any that escaped into circulation legendary. And now imagine that same coin also displaying a dramatic doubled die error where the design elements appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die creation process, not a simple machine doubling but true hub doubling that affects the entire design, because true doubled dies are already highly sought after, and when combined with a modern date like 2016, they challenge the assumption that major errors only happened in the past, reminding collectors that even today's technology is not immune to failure, and then add to that the possibility of a mule error, where the obverse and reverse designs are mismatched in a way that was never authorized, such as a 1-cent obverse paired with a reverse intended for a completely different coin series, which would require a breakdown in multiple quality control checkpoints, making the survival of such a piece almost miraculous. And it is in these extreme, compounded scenarios that values stop being based on price guides and start being based on private negotiation, because when there is no comparable sale, there is no ceiling. And a billionaire collector seeking the ultimate modern error could theoretically pay any amount to secure it, not because it's rational, but because collecting at that level is about ownership of the impossible, and this is why you see numbers like $293 million mentioned, not as a standard appraisal but as a symbolic representation of how far value can stretch when an object becomes irreplaceable, culturally resonant, and endlessly discussed, and the mint mark itself plays a crucial role here. Because the D mint mark ties the coin to the Denver Mint, and mint marks are not just letters, they are geographic and historical signatures, and a mint mark error such as a double D, a repunch D, or a D that appears where it should not exist can indicate either a die preparation mistake or an unauthorized alteration, and distinguishing between those requires expert metallurgical and microscopic analysis, and if proven genuine, such errors can multiply a coin's value exponentially. because mint mark errors in the modern era are far rarer than in earlier decades, making them especially attractive to advanced collectors who already own classic rarities and want something no one else has. And beyond mint marks, there are die state anomalies, such as die cracks, die breaks, cuds, and retained cuds that form as dies deteriorate. And while minor examples are common, extreme die failures that dramatically alter the coin's appearance while still allowing it to be struck and released are rare. And when such a die failure intersects with other error types, it creates a fingerprint that cannot be duplicated. And then there is the human element, because even the rarest coin is only valuable if people believe in its story, and modern coins benefit from the amplification power of the internet, where a single discovered error can be shared instantly with millions, generating hype, debate, skepticism, and fascination, all of which feed into perceived value. And when a coin becomes a symbol of what might be hiding in plain sight, it inspires people to search there. Change, to imagine that life-changing value could be sitting in a jar, and that emotional energy itself becomes part of the coin's worth, because collectors are not immune to dreams, and dreams drive markets. And this is why even discussions of hypothetical values matter, because they shape what people are willing to pay when something extraordinary does surface. And it's important to understand that the $293 million figure is not pulled from thin air but from comparisons to other unique cultural artifacts, such as one-of-one stamps, misprinted banknotes, and historical documents that have sold for astronomical sums, showing that when an item crosses from collectible into cultural icon, normal valuation rules dissolve, and a 1-cent coin, the smallest unit of American currency, becoming the most valuable object in the numismatic world, is a narrative that resonates deeply, because it flips expectations and challenges assumptions. And that narrative power is especially strong when linked to modern dates like 2016, because it suggests that history is still being written, that rarity is not locked in the past, and that even today's mass-produced objects can harbor singular anomalies. And this is why collectors carefully examine cents from years like 2016D for subtle signs of error, such as unusual weight indicating a wrong planchet, off-metal coloration, magnetic properties that shouldn't exist, alignment issues between obverse and reverse, and microdoubling that hints at die misalignment, because each of these could be the first clue in a chain of evidence leading to something extraordinary. And while the vast majority of 2016 cents are worth only face value, the possibility, however remote, that one could embody a perfect storm of errors keeps the hunt alive. And it's also why authentication is critical, because claims of extreme value